Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2025 Mercedes-Benz CLA 250 Coupe. Now I drove one of these back in 2019 and it was honestly the worst luxury car I had ever driven. So I was really excited to check out the new 2025 model and see how it is. So this is Mercedes-Benz subcompact luxury sedan, so it competes with things like the Acura Integra, the Audi A3, and the BMW 2 Series. However, this one starts at about $44,000, which makes it the most expensive vehicle in its segment, but that's because you get a very impressive list of standard features. You've got a beautiful pano sunroof, 64-color ambient lighting, wireless Apple CarPlay, and keyless entry, and there's so many other features, front and rear parking sensors. I could go on for a very long time. So the 2025 model year is part of the generation that started back in 2020. Mercedes-Benz actually gave this a light refresh in 2024, which gave it more updated, modern exterior styling and interior, like the new MB-UX infotainment system. So for 2025, Mercedes-Benz really doesn't do anything new to the vehicle. It's pretty much the same as the 2024. So the 2025 CLA 250 starts at $44,400 for the MSRP. Very, very high for this class of vehicle. It's very, very small. There's really not much room to carry people in the backseat, as you will see pretty shortly. But I do think it looks very nice and sleek. And like I said, you get those impressive standard features with this vehicle. This vehicle always comes with a 2-liter turbo inline 4-cylinder, gets you 221 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, gets you 0 to 60 times of 6.3 seconds. This is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with standard front-wheel drive, but you can get optional 4MATIC all-wheel drive. This gets you fuel economy numbers of 26 city, 36 highway for a combined 30 miles per gallon, which is not bad. So let's talk about the exterior of the CLA 250 Coupe. Now, I really like what Mercedes did with the exterior refresh last year, where they really made this a lot more sleek and modern. I think the chrome bar across the front fascia looks really excellent, and you've got that classic Mercedes logo, of course. And one thing I really like about the front fascia and the grille here is that it's all the little Mercedes logo inside, which I think is so cool. It's a very, very neat touch. You'll find that there's a lot of chrome throughout this vehicle. That's really what Mercedes goes for, right? Kind of that old school luxury vibe. I like their headlights. They're very sleek, and they are fully LED, daytime running lights, of course. You got front sensors as well, which is pretty impressive without a package on this vehicle, which is pretty nice. You've got another chrome bar at the bottom of the front fascia, and you've got some mix of real and fake exhaust vents as well. I do also want to note that this color is called Polar White. Not the most interesting thing, but I think it looks fine. If you clean it up, it looks pretty good. On the side profile, you've got not too much interesting stuff. Like I said, a lot of chrome. You've got that nice chrome accent on the door handles, which actually looks really good. And then these wheels are 18-inch multi-spoke wheels. I think they actually look very nice for a standard wheel, right? And as you approach the rear of the vehicle, you can really tell that the coupe styling really cuts into the headroom in the second row. So this vehicle really is not for carrying a lot of adults, probably better for small families with kids. Going into the rear, I love this rear fascia. I think this looks very reminiscent of the GT, which is super cool, right? The Mercedes-AMG GT is kind of one of those awesome supercars that I've always admired growing up, and I think the styling here takes a lot of cues there. I think it's awesome. But like I said, that slope has a very high degree, so it really cuts into the headroom of the second row and also the trunk space. You don't get that much trunk space here, 11.6 cubic feet of cargo space, but I will say I love how you open the trunk. I think that's such a cool Easter egg. So you really can't carry too much in here. I think just having a few suitcases and backpacks pretty much maxed out the capacity, but you can lower the rear seats 20-40-20, so you can get some more space if you need it. Again, I do really like these taillights. They look very cool, and you know, they have that kind of infinity look if you look inside of them closely. I think it looks great. You don't really have much else notable in the rear. Some more chrome kind of near the bottom. No real rear diffuser or anything like that. It's not really trying to be that sporty. No visible exhaust tips or anything like that, but the exhaust is actually not bad. Let's take a look at the interior of the 2025 CLA 250. The interior is probably the part that disappointed me the most when I rented this like 7 years ago, so wanted to see if there are any big improvements there. All right, let's take a look at the key fob first. Standard Mercedes key fob. I like that they're very small and sleek, easy to fit in your pockets. Another thing I mentioned before is that this has keyless entry with that nice indent, very easy to use, and the cool part is that it's on every single door. That's actually pretty rare. Usually most models only have it on maybe the driver's side door, maybe the front passenger, but it's rare that it's on the rear as well. But for this one it is. And you've got that nice chrome accent here as well. All right, keyless entry lets you go right in when you have the key fob in your pocket. This is my seat pushed all the way back so that I can get more filming space here, but it's a much better looking interior, much more modern than the one I drove a long time ago. So Mercedes clearly has made a lot of improvements to this vehicle. You've got that nice welcome sound, very cool. You've got that nice Mercedes logo. You can start it up with push to start. And you can already tell that this cabin actually is quite premium, definitely more deserving of the $45,000 starting price, but it's still very, very expensive. I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time spending that much on the base Mercedes, right? Like, this is one of the cheapest Mercedes you can buy. I think only the GLA is cheaper than this, but only by like $1,000. So this is one of the cheapest Mercedes vehicles you can buy, and it's still that expensive. Like the Integra, the A3, they both undercut this by a lot and offer just as much, honestly. So it's a bit of a toss-up there. But I will say that the interior is quite nice. They've made some really great refinement choices across the years, and I think this is definitely more deserving of a luxury car. The one that I rented 7 years ago didn't even feel like a luxury car. This one, you've got very nice material spread throughout the cabin. You've got a lot of stitching, a lot of good leather, this beautiful brushed aluminum that I really like. You've got you got a few different options, like different wood grain options as well. And you can see one of the cool things here is that you actually have three-way memory for the passenger, which is very rare on such a base vehicle, I would say. They've got the typical Mercedes layout for the seat adjustments, but I find it a little weird because you have lumbar, but it's on the side of your seat. So it's kind of weird that they split it up, right? Like, might as well put it all there or put it all, you know, where most vehicles have it, which is to the left of the seat, right? You can also see right here that you've got a little bit of that ambient lighting coming out. It's a 64 color ambient lighting. You've got some really great options there. You've got multicolor, which I love. I love being able to have different colors at once with ambient lighting. I think it's super cool. And one of my favorite party tricks is the fact that you can make it so that the temperature adjustments light the ambient lighting up red or blue, depending on if you're heating up the car or cooling it down, which I think is super cool. That is a great touch. I also will have to say that I love these circular vents. I really think that Mercedes does a great job integrating that throughout their entire lineup. I think some of the vehicles it looks kind of tacky, and honestly in some other vehicles the vents just look kind of crazy, but Mercedes has done a really great job with these vents. And you'll also notice here that you've got a lot of chrome and aluminum throughout the entire vehicle. That is pretty much the trend for Mercedes right now, and kind of has always been, is keeping in that luxury theme, kind of a bit more of a older theme, I would say. A lot of silver throughout the vehicle. But I think it looks quite nice, especially with this black interior. So again, this is the base car. So you've got the base black MB-Tex seats. These are not the most interesting seats, as you can see. You do have some interesting stitching, I would say. Not too interesting, but you've got some stitching around. And then the seat pattern is, you know, kind of boring. You do have a thigh extension, though, which is pretty nice for a base vehicle. I will say the door panels look quite nice. They've got some more intricate stitching throughout. And I do like the contrast of materials with that brushed aluminum on the door handle. And then you've got typical plastic on the bottom. And yeah, the actual use of materials on the door panels, I think, are quite nice. No interesting speaker grille. The sound system is pretty subpar, I would say. For the price, I would expect a better sound system, but it's not terrible. You can upgrade to like a more premium sound system, but it's unnamed, which I think is really interesting. Like, there's no brand behind it. So yeah, in order to get like the actual higher end, like the Burmeister or something like that, you can upgrade with that specifically. But this package, I think it's the exclusive trim, just gives you a more premium sound system, it says, and that's all. So very strange packaging on this vehicle, honestly. I really wish Mercedes would just do trims like normal. I feel like the way they do it, it's kind of more like a Porsche. And you would certainly not mistake a Mercedes for a Porsche, I would say. But overall, interior material choices are certainly an improvement and pretty decent. I don't have really any issues with that. You got a pretty good looking steering wheel here. It's a nice thickness and really easy to use. But I will say that the massive amount of capacitive touch buttons here is a little overwhelming at first. I think people will be a little confused on how to use this if they haven't used a Mercedes before, but this has been kind of par for the course for all of their vehicles lately. So you've got the left-hand side, which kind of controls the infotainment system here. This is going to be your or 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster, and then the right-hand side controls the actual infotainment system, the MBUX infotainment system, also a 10.25-inch infotainment screen there. That one is a touchscreen. So yeah, it's pretty typical. This one has your like volume controls, your media controls, things like that, and then this one here you can use to kind of adjust the look of this. So some options here, not too interesting. The sport one I do think is pretty funny. You get some cool animations. It looks very, very sporty, but I really wouldn't say this vehicle is the sportiest thing out there. One thing, if you haven't driven a Mercedes, is that they always use this for their gear select. So park, reverse, neutral, drive is going to be another stalk, which is a little interesting, a bit of a unique quirk of Mercedes. All right, let's go into this screen right here. So this is the 10.25 digital gauge cluster. Like I said before, there's not much configurability with it, but it looks fine. It's all digital. I think that's good in this day and age. I think a lot of people want the fully digital look, and it looks nice next to the infotainment system there. So really not much notable about this, but it pretty much shows everything you need, and there's not much configuration. So I think some people will like it if they just want to kind of plug and play this vehicle. Going into this is the MBUX system. They've updated this quite a few times throughout the years, and this one is just a lot faster. So they definitely have a better processing chip or something like that. In general, this one is much snappier, much more smartphone-like. You got some cool animations when you look throughout the different settings here. And it's all pretty easy to use, right? Settings is just one button. These quick buttons, a little weird. I would definitely redo the interface in general, but it's cleaner than BMW with their weird app-like interface, right? So I do kind of prefer this a little bit in terms of the simplicity of it. But I will say, like, they don't really have a home page, right? Like, this is the home page. So most people, you know, will be using that standard wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You do also have a standard wireless charging pad, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of vehicles include that by default. So yeah, this is all very typical stuff here. Apple CarPlay does take up the entire screen. It looks very, very good. Wireless Apple CarPlay has worked pretty seamlessly. I've had it drop a few times, but I don't know if that's an issue with the car or the connectivity here. But yeah, overall, very easy to use. This infotainment system is snappy, definitely improved over the years. I do think it's looking a little dated. They could probably do a refresh to make it look a bit more modern compared to, you know, iDrive 8 and some of those other systems out there right now. All right, and going through the center stack of this vehicle, you've got these beautiful vents like I mentioned before. You've got the auto stop start engine here, and then you've got your actual push to start. I do like the way that this is very clean, right? Like, I think some people, you know, there's a lot of choices when it comes to cars. You've got some with buttons kind of galore right here, kind of like the Acuras of these days. And then you've got some sleek layouts like this, and I definitely prefer this. These are all still physical buttons, very easy to click and easy to see what you want to use. So I do love this layout. Really no nonsense here. I will note there are no heated seats or heated steering wheel on this base trim, which is very rare at this price point, I would say. And I think it's a little weird because there are so many other great standard features on this vehicle, but not heated seats, so a little strange. This is the wireless Qi charging pad right here. Very easy to put your phone here. It's rubbery, kind of keeps your phone stable, so you don't have to worry about it slipping out or anything like that. You've got cup holders. I always love this little trick that you can kind of push this in and out, which I think is really cool. A lot of piano black, so it is shiny, it is glossy, fingerprint magnet, but you do have a nice storage mat. This is a little rubber mat here. You can put, you know, receipts or whatever else you want to put here. It's just too small to fit my phone. I have an iPhone 13 Pro, and it's too small to fit my phone with the case, but I think without the case it would fit perfectly. But, you know, at the same time, most people would be putting their phone in the wireless charging pad, right? So I don't really know what this is for, but it looks fine. Maybe a little handrest or something like that. You've got the dynamic button here. You can cycle through the different modes. So you've got comfort, eco, sport, and individual. You got some cool graphics too when you press that. This is a volume knob, looks kind of nice. Guessing this would be the 360 surround camera or maybe something else. This is the parking function. This allows you to search for parking spaces and it'll do an auto park job for you like Tesla. I haven't been able to use this yet, and I don't really trust it as much as I would trust some of the other vehicles out there. But yeah. So this is pretty clean. I do like this look. The piano black is definitely not the most attractive, but it looks nice when you clean it up. You've got a nice storage bin here. You've got some more chargers here, 2 USB-C. I don't believe there are any USB-A on this vehicle at all, so definitely moving towards that modern era of only USB-C. All right, we're back on the outside of the vehicle now, and you can actually see the rear view camera is out. It's cleverly integrated into that little Mercedes logo in the back there. Also the same trunk open button there. And I have to say, I really do like the look of the rear. I think it's a very nice look. I love it. Again, you've got that keyless entry thing here, so you can lock it here. You can also open it from here. Very, very cool. Going into the rear seats, not too much notable about it. You do have some similar like leather throughout the cabin, so they definitely didn't skimp out too much on the rear seats, but you don't get any of that brushed aluminum trim. The biggest con about these rear seats, honestly, is going to be the space, right? It's a coupe, so it is definitely pretty sloped back here. Headroom is definitely less than a lot of other rivals, so yeah, it can feel a little claustrophobic in here. Honestly, I would say the rear seats are really only meant for young adults or children. I think adults will feel pretty cramped back here. Even at 5'8", my head is pretty much touching the ceiling. I will say that the pano sunroof does open up the vehicle a lot more, makes it feel more airy. The windows are not the largest, as you can see here, not the largest windows, but the pano sunroof certainly helps. That is standard across this entire lineup, no matter what sort of packages you get. I love these little mini vents here. They're like little baby vents compared to the large ones up there. And unfortunately, they don't have ambient lighting, so they don't do the cool like red or blue light up when you're heating or cooling the vehicle. You've got one USB-C charger here, but like I said, not too much interesting in the rear seats here. All right, welcome to the driving impressions portion of the review. Unfortunately, I'm not actually going to be driving the vehicle because I forgot my iPhone mount at home. So because of that, I just have the phone propped up against the windshield right now, so can't really drive. I can try a little bit, but it's probably going to make the phone fall. So I'll kind of talk about what it's been like to drive through the Bay Area, though, in the last few days here. So ride quality is decent. I think that's kind of the overall theme of this car, is most of the things are decent, and it's a fine vehicle. It's just more expensive than you would expect for the entry-level Mercedes. And of course, when people are thinking of buying a new vehicle, price is pretty much one of the largest motivating factors, right? So you're going to look at the Audi A3, you're going to look at the Acura Integra, the BMW 2 Series, and you're going to be like, these are all cheaper than the Mercedes. So unless you just have a specific attraction to the Mercedes brand, I just don't think that you would take this. I will say the standard features are impressive on this vehicle. There are more than in those other competitors, but I don't know if it really makes that gap, I would say. Like, this vehicle starts at $45,000. That is so much money. And if you want to just size up and get a larger vehicle, like the C-Class, for example, it's only a few thousand more. And that one has much more usable back seats, much more usable storage in general. So I think this vehicle is fine. If you want a really small vehicle, a subcompact, it is sporty, it feels good to drive, but it doesn't give you much else, I would say. So the standard features are fine, and they're definitely a big pro of this vehicle. I was pretty impressed when I got in here, and I was like, okay, this is the base trim, I don't really expect much. You've got that nice ambient lighting, you've got the nice, in general, just infotainment system, and the three-way memory on both the passenger and the driver. That was pretty cool. All those things were impressive, but I think over time I was like, okay, I don't know if they're that impressive given the price points of this vehicle. The interior quality is good. I do think the stitching looks quite beautiful. The layout of the interior looks luxurious. It certainly fits a luxury vehicle. And honestly, the suspension is fine. The bumps are there. It's not going to be super floaty just because of the size of this vehicle, but I think the chassis is fine. I will say the transmission is a little jerky. I didn't get the best feeling when I was just driving this vehicle in comfort mode. I don't think the transmission is nearly as buttery smooth as some of those ZF8s from BMW, but I think because it's such a small vehicle, you've got decent handling, right? I do think the A3 still beats this a little bit, though. So honestly, like, comparing this to the A3, I think the A3 wins in almost every way, in my opinion. The looks of this vehicle are great. I do think that the interior and the exterior looks are pretty good. They probably look a bit more luxurious than the Audi. I think the Audi looks a bit more old-fashioned, even though they've remodeled that a little bit. But I think that rear on this car just beats out almost anything else in the segment. I think it looks fantastic. It looks very luxurious. And the front looks good. It gives you that classic Mercedes heritage kind of front fascia, but you still got that modern, sleek headlight design and, you know, just generally good body lines. The coupe styling is nice. It's a little controversial. I feel like if they didn't always force you to do a coupe, it might be better. You know, a lot of people who got in this vehicle with me were like, shouldn't this just be a two-seater? And, you know, Mercedes used to offer that, but yeah, I think it's a little interesting the way Mercedes does their, you know, coupes and sedan lineup. The tech in this vehicle is quite good as well. I think it is pretty impressive. The infotainment system, MB-UX, is quite snappy, definitely better than some of the older iterations I've used in the past. Wireless Apple CarPlay worked really well. I do love that you get a wireless charging pad as well. No heated seats or heated steering wheel standard is a pretty big loss, I think, because a lot of the other competitors do offer that. You can get a heads-up display on a package, I believe, 360 surround view camera. I really don't think you'll need it for such a small car though, but I guess it's always nice to have. Rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitors, all of that stuff is standard. Adaptive cruise control is standard as well. Overall, this vehicle appeals to, I would say, just anyone who really wants a Mercedes. I do think some of the competitors are probably just better bargains in general, but if you don't really care about the price jump and you just really want a Mercedes, I think this could be still a really good vehicle. You just have to understand that those rear seats are not the most usable, not the most practical. You don't have too much trunk space. The driving experience isn't going to be the greatest, but honestly, none of the vehicles in this segment are that cushy, I would say. Overall, it's fine. The seats are comfortable. I've had a good time in these seats. In general, it feels like a luxury vehicle, and I think that's a marked improvement over the 2018 model I drove a long time ago. So at least, you know, we've gotten that correct, and I do think that overall this is a good offering. These standard features are very, very impressive. The tech is good. Overall, it's fine. I just think that there are probably better options if you really want to shop around. Anyways, that's all I had to talk through today. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, you can click up here, subscribe down here, and I will see you guys in the next review. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.